I kind of need a bigger forklift. I made some custom modifications to the counterweight, but it's just not enough. I lost the footage of pulling the machine off the trailer. It turns out the GoPro is a lot like my wife. When it gets cold, it completely stops functioning. So I've set up a dramatic recreation. Pretty exciting stuff. Someday, I'm going to buy a machine that actually works. I just want to know how that feels. But not today. Instead, I bought 11 tons of well-seasoned American iron. This is a Hyster H150F outdoor forklift. It should be able to lift 15,000 pounds, about 7 tons. I say should be able to because it does not run. It does not even crank. It's got a little 4-cylinder diesel engine. I think it's a Perkins, but I'm not 100% sure. It's got a CAV pump, and it looks kind of British to me. Anyway, I'll show you the problem. So if I crank the engine, you will see the output shaft of the transmission turns, but the engine does not turn at all. So there is something majorly broken in this section. I don't know what it is. I believe this machine has a clutch. It's a wet clutch, but it functions just like a regular clutch. I don't think there's a torque converter. I guess worst case scenario, it has a broken crankshaft. Best case scenario, there's some kind of coupling or something in there that's come apart. Either way, it's going to be a big job. 20,746 is a lot of hours, but that's a Caterpillar hour meter, and I suspect it's not original. There are some other clues that make me think this machine does not have that much time on it. If you look at the pedals and the foot plate, I don't think this machine's ever been painted, and it's still got paint, still got plenty of tread. The interior is, it's in pretty sad shape, and it is missing the door on the left side. But overall, the machine is pretty straight. So the forks are nice and straight, the mast is nice and straight. There is a bend in this pin that holds the forks. That's pretty common in my experience. The tires are pretty decent. It's only got one leak that I can see. That's from the side shift cylinder, or maybe from the side shift hoses. The other 3 cylinders don't seem to be leaking. I mean, it just really doesn't look too bad. The glass is good, except for the rear window. The cab's not all beat up. The hood's not all beat up. There is one little dent right there. Little hickey on the rear grille, but otherwise, the whole rear of the machine's in pretty good shape. The steering linkages are tight. I don't know. If we can get it running, I think we might have something. If I remove the air cleaner and this sheet metal panel, there's a drive shaft between the front axle and the transmission. We should be able to drop the transmission without removing the engine. At least get an idea of what's going on. You know, if the crankshaft is broken, obviously the engine's going to have to come out. Doesn't look too difficult. The problem is getting parts. I know it's getting difficult to find parts for these older Perkins engines. I rebuilt one of these maybe about 10 years ago, and it had a bad crankshaft. I had to get it fixed because I could not find a replacement. So we'll just see. I mean, if the crankshaft's broken, it may not make sense to fix this engine. We might just go to something else. But let's not get the cart before the horse. I'm going to start tearing things apart, and we're going to figure out what's going on. Pretty sure that supplies oil to the clutch area. And there's a big return line down here. Doesn't seem to be any kind of an inspection port into the bell housing. So I'm wondering if we take the starter off, we'll be able to see what's going on. I did find the starter switch scabbed onto the end of an old extension cord. Pretty typical, I guess. The only thing you can be sure of on an old machine like this is that somebody's been there before. Oh, man. I bet there's a third one somewhere. Yeah. Oh, God. Did I mention this is a Perkins? So, of course, everything is fine thread. And you can't put a socket on anything. It's all got to be done with open-end wrenches. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Pretty typical British engineering. Built in the 1970s, designed in the 1870s. It's kind of fun blowing the dust off my inch-sized tools, though. Pretty much everything I work on now is metric. Nope. I gotta eat my words. Not fine thread. Probably because that's an SAE bell housing. Bunch of grumbling about nothing. Okay. What can we see? Looks like nothing. Wrong size, buddy. There we go. I don't see why we couldn't roll the transmission back now if we had a way to hold on to it. Figure that part out, I guess. I think there's a very real chance this transmission is way heavier than I think it is. There it is. It is a lot heavier than I thought it was. And it's not balanced, but it's not balanced in the other way. So we don't need that. I don't know, I can't tell. I think the bolts might be broken between the crankshaft and the flywheel.
Is that like a new process transmission or something?
Pretty sure it is, yeah. I think I saw an NP in there.
Yeah. Kind of looks like what I used to drag out of my Scout 2s.
Probably the same. Well, it's different because...
It's a 4-speed, right?
But it does not have reverse.
Okay.
Reverse is in the axle.
Okay.
Which is pretty weird.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think it's just a regular 4-speed transmission with a clutch.
Yep. Obviously, this little chain hoist has got the tranny.
Yep.
Okay.
You may tip a little, but it can't go anywhere.
All right. You got a skinnier tire iron? Okay, that's not a tire iron.
I got this pig sticker.
Okay. I'm gonna push down on the back end.
I have no idea how heavy it is, but I'm hoping I can hold it.
It's gonna be heavy.
That came with the machine, so it's the official tool for this job.
Oh, well, we've got the right one.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, that looks heavy.
It's very heavy.
I'm glad you're a big boy. I'm gonna pull the wires over here.
Oh man.
Looks like we had a little oil leak in there too. All right.
No, it's a wet clutch.
Oh, well, it's really wet. That's good.
Just like a motorcycle.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well, that all has to be sealed.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to come over here and help you bring that to the ground. You would probably want to bring that to the ground, right?
Yeah.
Where are we going with
Right
it?
straight down. Look at that. I think that's a brand new clutch. It sure looks like it. Well, there's your problem, lady. Your bolts are broken off. All 6 of them. I bet somebody forgot to tighten those. Yeah, look at that. That flywheel's just been surfaced, I'm sure of it. I bet somebody just put a clutch in this thing and they forgot to tighten the flywheel bolts. It's turning. I see it. Okay, let's try that. Come on, baby. All right. There we go. I think that was probably the easiest one. The ones where it's broke off down inside the threads, I'm a little more concerned about. So we've got to get it past those chewed up threads. This one down here looks pretty nasty. Oh, yeah. There we go. I'll take that. This is a whole lot better situation than, you know, if you cross-threaded something, or if it was rusted in place and broke off trying to pull it out. Oh, it's turning. This is like the one time in a decade when an easy out actually works. Oh yeah. Okay. Fantastic. I think that's all 6. First couple threads might be a little chewed up, but we'll see if we can get some longer bolts. The big question is, how did this happen? Now, I've seen flywheels with broken bolts, but I have never seen a flywheel with all the bolts broken. There's only one possible explanation. I think the clutch was replaced very recently. Maybe not according to a calendar, but hour-wise, I bet that clutch doesn't have 100 hours on it. And when they replaced the clutch, they either replaced the flywheel or they had it machined, so they had to remove it, and they didn't get the bolts torqued properly. I don't know if they got them too tight and stretched them, or they didn't get them tight enough and then they worked their way loose. And then once the bolts were loose, just driving the machine, banging back and forth, that was enough to shear off the bolts. It probably took out kind of one at a time, and then when the last one let go, that was it. I don't know, I'm not gonna cast too much judgment. I've done plenty of stupid things just like this. The good news is I think it's an easy fix. I've got some new bolts. I don't think there's really any damage to the crank or the flywheel. It's a little nicked up, but we can live with that. We should be able to put the thing right back together and make it work. There's an O-ring that seals between the flywheel and the crankshaft, and it's in pretty sad shape. It's been doctored up at least twice before. They put silicone on the O-ring, and then they also put silicone between the flywheel and the crankshaft, which I think might have been part of the problem. Anyway, I don't have a new one, so we're gonna make one, or attempt to make one, using two O-rings that I do have. I think they have about the same cross section. So all we got to do is glue the ends together. I'm just going to use some super glue. Yes, it is actually super glue. But I don't know, did they change the formula on super glue? Because this stuff sucks. And I've tried different brands, different formulations. They all suck. They will not bond, and they take forever to set up. It's supposed to be the whole idea with super glue is that it's quick. And we're going to try some accelerator. So this is an approved, well, more or less approved procedure, gluing up O-rings. You can actually buy kits. There's a pretty nice one from Caterpillar where it comes with O-ring stock, and it has a little fixture that you can put the ends in to glue them up. I would not recommend it for a dynamic application like, you know, a cylinder, you know, hydraulic cylinder seal, but this is a static application. It'll be just fine. Okay, and I'll just clean off the little bit that squeezed out here. I don't know what's in this stuff. It smells like some kind of solvent. Might put just a touch of silicone RTV on the two joints, just so they don't try to weep a little bit. I don't know, what do you think about this flywheel? I think this has been replaced. The casting is pretty poor quality. The ring gear looks like it's brand new. I mean, that ring gear does not have 20,000 hours on it. There's no way. I guess as long as it works, which so far it hasn't. But if we can make it work, I'm okay with it. It's a little scarred up just from dragging, but I stoned it down the best I could. I think it'll be okay. I think that'll work. Best I can tell, the original bolts were 1.5 inches long. I bought some 2-inch bolts and then cut them off so they're about 1.75 inches. Should give us a little bit more engagement. And I measured, they will fit without bottoming out. And then we're gonna add some Loctite just to be sure. In case you were wondering, this flywheel has not gotten any lighter. I'm not 100% sure how I'm gonna get it in there. Oh, wish I had some help. I don't know if I can lift it with one hand. Well, that didn't work. Oh, God. At least the drain pan was there to catch it. Did I mention that it's heavy? For it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Not so bad. Now there is a dowel pin location in the crankshaft, but there's no pin in the flywheel. So I don't know if it's supposed to be on there in some particular way. I measured the hole spacing, and it seems it doesn't seem to have you know, an odd bolt. Sometimes they do that, so you can only put it on one way. Oh, there's that. There we go. According to Perkins, this wants 90 foot-pounds. That's it. That's all it's getting from me. We've got a problem. I'm checking the run out. It's supposed to be less than 12 thousandths. And hopefully you can see it's about 60 thousandths. So it's like 1.5 millimeters. And it's supposed to be, you know, 0.2 millimeters or something like that. So we're gonna have to pull that thing back off there. It will not work that way. Something must be messed up on the face or the end of the crankshaft or something. The flywheel is back off, obviously, and I've set it up in the lathe. I indicated this face. I'm gonna go ahead and just skim the mounting surface. I actually read the spec wrong. It's supposed to be true within 1,000th. That would be 0.025 millimeters. And it's, what, 60 thousandths or something? So that's not gonna cut it. Anyway, we'll take a little skim pass across there. Hopefully it'll true it right up. Yeah, I see it. I see it. Looks a little bit better. I chamfered the holes, stoned everything down. This is the best we're gonna do. I'm not too impressed with this flywheel. I used to work in a foundry, so I'm pretty judgmental about castings, and this one is pretty bad. You can see all the porosity. There's a spot on the other side where it didn't clean up. It'll work, I think. It's been balanced, at least it looks like it's been balanced, so that's all that really matters. Probably made in India or China or whoever had the lowest bid. Anyway, my O-ring, my homemade O-ring, it wasn't working out too good. You can see where it got kind of squished here. This is the wrong size. I remeasured the groove. It's supposed to have a 3/32 cross-section O-ring. So I went ahead and bought the right one. At least I think it's the right one. Close enough anyway. I had to buy 50 of them. So we'll put those on the shelf. I'm sure they'll get used real soon. All right, we're gonna put a little bit of grease in this groove just to hold on to that O-ring. And we'll put a little bit of grease along the outside here for the seal. And then we're gonna put this thing back together. I also cleaned up the end of the crankshaft the best I could using stones and countersinking or chamfering the holes. It was not very good. I didn't do a very good job. So it's not surprising that it had a bunch of run out. It'll be a little more thorough this time. And don't worry, I blew all the chips out of the pilot bearing. It's in good shape. It's ready to go back together. Hopefully for the last time, because I don't think my back's gonna make it much longer. It's funny, the 3 thousandths I shaved off this flywheel didn't make it any lighter. Oh. God, it's heavy. Oh crap, where's my jack? You know, the smart way to do this job would be to take the transmission clear out. Then I could literally just stand inside the frame of the machine and work on it. too late now, I guess. Okay. That's good enough to check it, I think. Hey, look at that. That's a whole lot better. Okay, that's within 3 thousandths. I know the tolerance is 1, but I just don't think we're going to get it any better than that. So good. We can put this thing back together. That problem is solved. I'm going to retorque the bolts here just to be sure that they're right. And we'll start putting the transmission back on. Actually, we got to put the clutch on first, don't we? We'll do something. The clutch plate says made in Canada. Should be pretty good. This is kind of a universal clutch alignment tool. It fits into the pilot bearing, and it has this cone. Problem is, it's not perfect, like any kind of alignment tool, because there's always some play in the pilot. So we'll put the pressure plate on there and kind of see how it looks. Sometimes it's better just to align it by eye. You'd be surprised how accurate that can be. This stuff is heavy. Very, very heavy. I put some Loctite on these pressure plate bolts too, just to be safe. They do have lock washers, but better safe than sorry. Okay, let's see if I can find a torque spec for that. We're going to go with 32 foot-pounds. Hey, look at that. Look at that. I got it now. Cool. Okay, the transmission and the starter are in place. Really wasn't too bad. I would say putting it together was a whole lot easier than taking it apart. But I'm tired. It's a tough job. Plus, it's past bedtime. So we'll pick things up in the morning. We are approaching the moment of truth. I hooked up the drive shaft and the hoses. I installed and adjusted the clutch linkage. It was a little bit too loose, had a little bit too much free play. And then I unhacked some of the wiring so we can get rid of our extension cord. And we should be able to just start this thing with the key. See, we got lights on now. Never had that before. Oh, and the hour meter's working now too. Yeah, let's see what happens. I checked the oil in the engine, it's good. I don't really know where the oil for the clutch comes from. I think it's hydraulic oil. I'm assuming you do not have to pre-fill it, that it will just spray in there as needed. We did lose some oil, but shouldn't be enough to be a problem. Let's try it. That's a neutral. This thing is fantastic. The brakes work, the steering works, the hydraulics work. I think the little heater even works. It's not super good in snow. Maybe that's not surprising. It's probably why they put these bolts in the tires. Might look into a set of tire chains for it. The exhaust needs some work. It's got a leak right there. It fills the cab with smoke. I don't think the muffler is doing anything. It's very loud. The seat, obviously, is a total write-off. We can do something about that. The clutch works. I mean, everything works. All the gears work. We got to fix the side shift. It's leaking really badly, and it's basically full of air, so whenever the machine leans, the carriage just slides back and forth. Yeah, I got to clean the glass too. I can't see anything. But it is fantastic. That little Perkins engine just purrs like a kitten. A little smoky on startup, but I think it's a pre-combustion engine, so that's not surprising. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. We're done for now. Obviously, there's a lot of things we need to do, and we'll get to that, but it runs, it is usable. So that's good enough for right now. Thanks for watching. If you stuck around to this point, I will go ahead and give you some numbers. This machine was going to be scrapped. He told me the junkyard offered him $200 a ton. It weighs 11 tons, and they were going to charge him $100 to haul it. So $2,100 to scrap it. I paid $2,500 for the machine, and then it cost me $500 to move it here on a lowboy. It's way too heavy to haul on anything that I've got. Plus they had to use a tow truck to push it on the trailer. That was a deal as far as I'm concerned. That was an hour drive either way, a little over an hour. As far as fixing it, I had to buy 6 bolts. That cost $9.03, and I had to buy 1 O-ring. That cost about 25 cents. So for $9.28 on top of my $3,000 purchase, I have a running, driving, usable forklift that can lift 15,000 pounds. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, okay. This will probably be my last video before Christmas, so Merry Christmas, everybody, and thanks again for watching. And I don't say this enough, thanks to the guys on Patreon who kick in a few bucks to make frivolous projects like this more possible. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks again. In the ultimate irony, I think that a rabbit was living inside the rabbit. And when I set the rabbit down, the actual rabbit ran out and I trapped it inside this little room. Max, we do not need your help with this. There he is, behind the shovel. I just want to scare him outside. Step back, please. Can someone grab Max so he doesn't kill this bunny? Come on over there. Come on. He's under the forklift. Move the forklift outside. Tried to save the bunny, and I lost the forklift.
Where is it?
Hopelessly stuck in the mud.
In the mud?
In the mud.
Uh-oh.
I'm just gonna leave it for tonight. Hopefully it freezes and we can get it out in the morning.
Okay.
It'll start.